Why does making friends as an adult feel so
What should I
hard?
wear on a first
What the
date?
hell is a form?
But that
Why
hookup
is
was
buying my
not
first
good.
home so
What do I want my
frustrating?
life to look like in 5 years?
We want to know too.
Since 2012, The Everygirl has been an online destination to help women around the world achieve the life of their dreams. Now, we're excited to bring you the same inspiring content with the Everygirl podcast.
Welcome back to the Everygirl podcast. Thursday means it's time for our Ask the Everygirl segment where you submit a question and we give you some advice. And this week's question is near and dear to my heart. I could write an entire book on this topic. So thank you to this listener for making my week. She writes in, I've tried so many diets like keto, Whole30, or the animal-based diet that everyone swears by on TikTok, but I'm feeling discouraged because nothing has worked. What diet do you recommend? So glad you asked. First of all, just to be clear, the word diet has two different connotations. There is diet as the kinds of food that someone eats habitually, or even like an animal or a community, like the Mediterranean diet literally just means those are the foods that communities in that region of the world habitually eat. Or elephants eat a diet of grass and plants because they're herbivores, right? Like all living beings have a diet. It's the foods we eat based on our biological, cultural, or geographical needs. And then the second use of the word diet is not about what you're eating, it's about what you're not eating. The dictionary defines this second definition as a special course of food to which one restricts oneself either to lose weight or for medical reasons. That's the diet this listener is referring to in this question, like keto or Whole30, where it's not what you're habitually eating, it's guidelines over what to eat and what not to eat that you're choosing to follow. Like my dog is not going on a diet, but his diet includes his ground up meat, hot dog looking food, and lots of treats because I'm a sucker. I know you already know the difference, but the reason I'm emphasizing this is because I'm going to be talking about both. To start with that second definition, the specific guidelines over what foods to eat and what not to eat, these kinds of diets do not work. Period. Full stop. I'm sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but diets do not work. And I will explain why. Obviously, sometimes diets are medically prescribed. You know, if you have an allergy or your doctor prescribes you a specific diet, I'm not referring to that because in that case, you're using food to heal symptoms of your body. So I'm really just referring to everything you see on social media about I'm on Whole30 or keto to lose 10 pounds. Diets are like toxic exes. They make big promises, they make you doubt yourself, and then they leave you worse off than before. Here's why diets don't work. First of all, restricting anything can lead to a deficiency in nutrients and a deficiency in happy hormones. When you restrict calories or you cut out whole food groups, your body doesn't just miss out on the less healthy stuff, it also misses out on essential nutrients. Like if you fully cut out dairy, obviously it's different if you have a dairy allergy or sensitivity, but if you're just cutting it out as a means to lose weight or because you heard some influencer say that dairy was causing inflammation, so she cut it out, you might be cutting out a lot of your body's go-to source for vitamin B12, vitamin D, calcium, iodine, zinc, choline. Or cutting carbs is crazy. All of this, like keto or carnivore diets, which limits carbs, your brain and body literally need carbs to function. And especially if you have a menstrual cycle, you need more carbs at certain stages just to allow your hormones to do what they're supposed to do. Carbs also help your body produce serotonin, one of your happy hormones. So when you go on a low carb diet and you're feeling cranky and foggy and like the littlest thing could set you off, that's your serotonin and energy levels saying, what the fuck is going on and where is my carbohydrates? And speaking of happy hormones, you have to enjoy your food because eating is a crucial part of the day where our brains release feel good hormones like dopamine. For some of us, sadly, on some days, meals are the only time the brain can release dopamine because it's the only time of the day you let yourself experience pleasure. You might have heard me talk about before a joy deficiency where your brain is like, okay, I haven't had enough joy or dopamine. You can literally be deficient in joy, just like any other nutrient. And what happens when you're deficient in joy, just like with any other deficiency, your brain will crave the quickest form. Like if your body is deficient in glucose and energy, it will crave sugar or simple carbohydrates because that's the quickest form of energy. If you're in a joy deficiency, you'll crave maybe a TikTok scroll or binging cookies because it's the quickest form of joy. Your body needs joy. It needs these happy hormones. A random fun fact, when we make that sound when something tastes really good, it's not a completely random sound. Like, have you ever thought about why do we say when something tastes good? Like, why do we do that? It's biological. The vibrations from that sound rewires the central nervous system and creates neural pathways in the brain. That's why in yoga you make that like humming sound or you'll chant like om. It does the same thing. It's for that same purpose. Our bodies do that on their own when we taste something delicious. Food is meant to be pleasurable and needs to be enjoyable for our health. Restriction also leads to binging and craving, and it's a lot deeper than just you want what you can't have. This is actually what your body is meant to do because of something called the famine effect. When you restrict something, whether it's you're restricting calories or you're restricting a certain food group or you tell yourself you can't have the cookies or something, your body reads that as being in a famine. Because overabundance to food, having too much food, is actually fairly new to our evolution. So we have evolved to deal with lack of food, not overabundance of food. So restricting feels like a famine to your body. And when your body thinks it's in a famine, it starts sounding every alarm. Like your hunger hormones spike, your hormones that signal fullness drop. It's literally your body trying to protect you. It's your body screaming at you, eat something, we're going into a famine. If you were starting to go through a potato famine where your access to potatoes were going to be limited, this makes your cravings for potatoes increase because your body wants you to get in as many potatoes as it can to get those nutrients in until they're no longer available. So when you restrict yourself from carbohydrates, you will have intense cravings for carbohydrates. If you restrict yourself from sugar, you guessed it, you will have worse cravings for sugar than you ever had before. I see this time and time again. People will be really quote, good on their diet for a week or a few weeks, and then absolutely binge or what they refer to as give in, like they gave in or they didn't have willpower. It's not because you lack willpower, it's because your body is smarter than your meal plan. Dieting is kind of like holding your breath underwater. So that cheat day or binge day is your brain coming up for air. It's not a failure, it's your body trying to save you. Another reason that dieting doesn't work is because when you eat less, your metabolism actually slows down. So when you restrict calories for a long time, your body adapts to this. It's like, oh, we're in survival mode? Okay, cool. Let's burn less fuel so we can hold on to the fuel that we do have. This is called adaptive thermogenesis, and it basically means that your metabolism downshifts to conserve energy. So if your body's thinking, okay, we don't have as much access to food as we typically have, let me slow down my metabolism so we can store our energy. Basically, we can store our energy reserves. So your body burns less calories in rest and wants to hold on to fat more. So sure, you might lose weight short term, but over time, your body burns fewer calories. And the moment that you start eating normally again, or you just go back to the diet that you've always had, you will regain weight. And typically at a greater rate or with a less amount of calories than may have caused you to gain weight before you restricted. So that's why you see a lot of regaining or gaining more weight after dieting, even if you're not binging from the cravings, because that's another reason that you'll see that regaining. And then the last reason why I hate diets and why they don't work is because following a diet means you are looking to the diet, to the meal plan, to the program to be the expert, not you and not your body. This is my biggest problem. Diets teach you to ignore your body. You stop asking, am I hungry? Or what does my body need right now? And instead you start asking, what would this app say about a piece of bread? Or what does this diet I'm on tell me that I'm allowed to eat for lunch? It's like outsourcing your intuition, your body's wisdom to some random influencer who sells you a high protein diet or low carb, what I eat in a day video. You don't get healthy from following other people's advice or meal plans or rules. You get healthy because you listen to your body. A study that was done by a therapist and dietitian, Ellen Satter. By the way, whenever there's a study done by a woman, I always want to shout her out. So shout out, Ellen. We appreciate you. This study showed that if parents of overweight children stopped talking to their children about food, stopped giving them food rules, saying to clean their plate or to eat less or to watch what they eat, if they stopped any conversations about food, the kids will guaranteed eventually lose weight because the child begins to relearn and understand their own signals of hunger and satisfaction. The primal part of our brains know how to keep us healthy. This is probably the opposite of everything you've ever heard. If you want a diet or you're struggling with your health or weight, you need outside help, you need intervention, you need guidelines and rules. I know this is so opposite what our culture tells you, but all of this noise is keeping you in a cycle and it's preventing you from being healthy. So if diets don't work, now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about what actually does work. First of all, put a lot of effort into reconnecting with your body by intuitive eating, which intuitive eating, by the way, is not a diet. It's not a trend. It's not a strategy. It is literally how our bodies have consumed food and have kept us optimally healthy since the beginning of human existence. Like it is as innate to us as breathing. Babies intuitively eat, animals intuitively eat, but our food system has programmed us out of it. So it does require work to get back to understanding your body's cues. I feel like I need a whole other episode to cover all of this alone, but just to get started, I would identify some food rules that you have, some ingrained rules that you have about food. Like, do you believe that certain foods are good or bad? Do you think that the serving size on the box knows what's better for you than your own hunger cues do? Do you think there are only certain times of day to eat? Like I know a lot of people who think of lunch as like lunch has to be around noon. So they'll be starving at 11 a.m., but they make themselves wait an hour as if it matters to your body, as if that 1 hour makes a difference and your body runs on this tight schedule based on our world and your body knows if it's noon or not. We just have these ideas about when to eat, what to eat, how much to eat, that is all centered around external rules and has actually nothing to do about what our body is telling us it needs. You might have grown up in an environment where you had to clean your plate. There's a classic line from My Big Fat Greek Wedding where the mom is shaming her daughter to eat more by saying, when I was your age, we didn't have food. This is obviously a funny exaggeration, but it is a mentality that was very common when us millennials were growing up. It was like, you should be grateful for your food, so you have to eat it all. Or maybe it was the opposite, where you were shamed if you ate too much. All of this has interfered with your ability to listen to and trust your own hunger cues and satisfaction cues. If you were a clean plate club kid, God, that is a freaking mouthful. If you were told as a kid that you had to clean your plate, or even if it's not about childhood and it doesn't run that deep, but like now you're like, ugh, I don't want to have to go the extra step to save leftovers, so I'll just eat the rest because it's not really enough to save or it's too much work to put in a container, so I'll just eat the rest. Know this. The food is either going to waste in your body or in the trash. It is not any less waste because you ate it when you didn't actually want it or it wasn't actually providing nutrients that you need. It is going to waste either way, okay? I don't know who needs to hear that, but there's definitely some clean plate club kids who need to hear that. Also, getting to know what full really means. So I'll dive into that difference between being full and being satisfied. Fullness is the physical feeling of eating enough. And we think of fullness as being like, oh, I'm so full. It's like where you feel stuffed, like you couldn't eat another thing. That's actually not fullness. Fullness is when your body has consumed enough to sustain energy and nutrients, but you don't feel stuffed or bloated or that like super full and comfortable feeling. You just feel good. You feel energized. You don't feel hungry. That is full. That is where we are supposed to be eating to. Think of it this way: if you are someone who thrives with guidelines, try to eat until you're about 80% of the way really full. You're not completely stuffed. You're just eating until you're about 80% what maybe you might be used to eating to. Feeling full is consuming enough nutrients for your body. It's the physical cue that you've eaten enough. But feeling satisfied is the mental or the emotional feeling of eating enough. Most of us eat way past the physical feeling of fullness because it takes more to make us satisfied. Maybe we're eating so mindlessly, like we're having a smoothie on the go and then lunch at your desk and then dinner in front of the TV. So the body isn't signaling that pleasure that we need to the brain. So it takes more food to be able to feel satisfied because we're not fully enjoying our food. Or maybe it's because the food that you're eating isn't enjoyable. It's bland chicken and veggies. You're not feeling satisfied, so you go to the cupboard for cookies, even if you aren't hungry, but there's that lack of satisfaction that your brain needs to fix. Evelyn Tribal, who is responsible for making intuitive eating like modern day mainstream, and she was the first one who really educated people on intuitive eating. She says that when you eat what you really want in a happy, enjoyable environment, the pleasure you get from that food is so powerful, you'll find that it takes much less food to decide that you've had enough. Your satisfaction will line up with your fullness so you don't overeat. And then when it comes to snacking, if you are eating when you're not hungry, your body is craving nourishment in other ways. It might be craving rest or connection or stimulation. Maybe you're bored watching TV, or even just a little dopamine hit after a soul-sucking day. I mean, remember that joy deficiency I talked about? But instead of giving yourself what you actually need, it's easier to reach for chips or cookies or order your favorite comfort meal from Uber Eats. A really common example that I have found with my clients is they often eat when they're not hungry during work days, and they'll like snack on the office donuts, or if they work from home, they're grabbing a bag of chips to snack on. What I have deciphered is that it's often because what their bodies really want is a break. They want to take a break from work, but the only way that they subconsciously permit themselves to do that is through food. Because if you think about it, the only breaks we really give ourselves is a lunch break, or maybe you take a break to go get a coffee. So the body's like, I really need a break right now, so let's eat because that's the only way you're going to give me a break. Instead, you can notice that you just need a break. You don't even need food. And you can go for a walk, or you can watch an architectural digest video. That's so weird, but that's what I like to do when I need a break from work. I watch a celebrity's home tour. But, do whatever a break means to you. Just realize what your body is actually asking for, because we have used food so long that it kind of masks what our body actually wants. So just every time that you are being pulled to eat when you're not actually hungry, when you're not actually looking for nutrition, identify what your body is actually asking for. And then eat foods that both taste good and feel good. And this requires a lot of checking in with your body. So really pay attention to how your body feels after every food. I promise you, you will stop wanting Chips Ahoy or late night pizza when you pay attention to how much it makes you feel like shit. And you'll start craving vegetables and whole foods because you will notice how amazing they make you feel. So you have to be really, really, really paying attention. So it's not only just like the big signs, like I either was bouncing off the walls, felt great, had so much energy, or I was vomiting in the toilet from this late night pizza. It's all the in-betweens. It's like, "Oh, I feel a little sluggish after that meal," or, "Wow, I had a meeting afterwards and I actually felt really clear." Noticing how certain foods make you feel. Removing the labels of these foods are good, these foods are bad, and instead identifying what makes you feel good. Because here's another example. Gluten is something that obviously has been villainified, I guess I'd say, and obviously a lot of people have gluten allergies and gluten sensitivities, and gluten doesn't make them feel good. But because it is very demonized, there are also a lot of people who maybe feel like after having a really good whole wheat pasta, they feel amazing. Like they had fiber from the wheat, so their body actually felt really great. And maybe it's like you eat Brussels sprouts and your body feels really bloated. Like, get rid of whatever labels you've told yourself of good versus bad, and instead just pay attention to how food makes you feel. So, first of all, that's gaining insight on how you actually should be eating based on what your body is telling you. But also, it will stop making you crave foods that don't make you feel good, and it will get you to start craving foods that do make you feel good. But again, making sure that the foods taste good is also really, really important too. So, this means making healthier versions of foods that you love by adding in more whole foods from the earth. So, you aren't trying to suppress your cravings, which will just backfire, like we talked about. And also, like we talked about, you want to be deriving pleasure from the food. So, for example, if you're craving a pizza, don't force yourself to eat a salad or, I don't know, sad zucchini boats instead. It's about leveling up your favorite meals by adding more whole foods, like make a veggie loaded pizza on a cauliflower crust with real cheese, maybe some arugula, roasted peppers, a drizzle of olive oil. So you're not depriving yourself. You are upgrading the meals that you love to make you feel good as well as taste good. When it comes to the other definition of diet, like the definition of the food that someone eats habitually, like what your diet is made of, I think we really overcomplicate nutrition. I look at it like the more natural, the better. The more variety of plants I can get into my diet, that's all I need to think about. Every meal, just have as many unprocessed foods as possible. Have a lot of plants, have a clean source of protein, and you're good. This is how we're meant to eat. You don't need all that diet food to get an impossible amount of protein or fiber or whatever. Just eat more whole foods from the earth and have a clean source of protein at every meal. There are so many amazing diets around the world, like the Mediterranean diet. It's full of plants and omega 3s, which is great for inflammation and heart health. I personally like to look to the blue zones, which are the places of the world with the longest living people. I think this is the best data that we have on specific diets that the human body responds to best, because at the end of the day, longevity is the best measurement of how successful a diet is, right? How long it was able to keep you healthy. And not just length of life, by the way. These blue zones have like 100-year-olds that are still cooking and fishing and walking until the day that they die. They don't have diabetes or heart disease. They are healthy literally up until the last day on earth. And what's really interesting is that most of these diets in the blue zones are actually pretty high in carbohydrates, which is really opposite of our culture's obsession with protein and keto diets that are high in fats and protein and low in carbs, or the animal-based diet. Don't even freaking get me started on the meat bowl. And listen, it truly is whatever feels best for you, because it's also true that everybody is different. So I don't want to yuck your yum. If you feel amazing eating really high protein and animal-based, like, go off. Listen to your body first and foremost. I'm just sharing my opinion and how I form that opinion and the method of eating that I like to go off of. But again, your body is the expert, not me. But just speaking generally, there is a lot of positive research behind high fiber, carbohydrate, plant-based diets, and there's also positive research behind animal-based diets. Like, there is positive research for both. So what I personally look to is to go off of the longevity factor. we see all of these communities around the world with high levels of longevity that eat a very plant-rich diet. And I know the argument people make for the animal-based diet is that it's what our ancestors did, like the cavemen, but also these populations were only living until they were like 30 years old because they were dying from illness or enemies or from being killed by predator animals. Like, we just have no indication that this diet helped this population thrive health-wise. Based on the research we have, going back to the Blue Zones diet, every single community in the world with the longest living people is high in carbohydrates and plants and actually comparatively low in protein. For example, in Okinawa, Japan, they eat a lot of rice and purple potatoes. Sardinians have a lot of bread and pasta. So it's very opposite what you hear in our culture, which to me means the marketing in the food industry is really working overtime. Obviously, every diet of the Blue Zones is different because they vary across different regions and continents, but these are the core principles that they found from the Blue Zones, like what they all have in common that I look to as key pillars of a healthy diet. The first one, like I already mentioned, being really heavily based in plants. The bulk of the Blue Zones diet is plant-based. Think like legumes, greens, whole grains, nuts, seeds. And meat is really rare, and it's usually eaten as a side, not the main event. Like, it'll be like a little sprinkle of bacon on a bean soup. It's not a 10-ounce steak. Beans are absolutely the MVPs. People in Blue Zones eat about a half a cup to 1 cup of beans daily. It looks like black beans in Costa Rica, chickpeas in Ikaria, soybeans in Okinawa. Beans are so unsexy, but they honestly need a rebranding because I've called them before the greatest glow-up food. They're high in fiber and protein, and they contain so many phytonutrients. Another common pillar of the Blue Zones diets is whole foods. Unsurprisingly, like, it's very simple. They use foods from the earth. They don't eat processed foods, refined sugars, packaged snacks. Most meals are homemade. They're simple. They're made from ingredients that you can actually pronounce. Food is almost always grown at home or in their communities, so local, seasonal, lots of veggies, grains, legumes, seeds, raw honey, olive oil, fresh cheese, homemade pasta. Like, we can eat this way at home. Like, eat the real thing instead of the fake version that's adding protein or whatever. I promise you that is healthier for you. And another key pillar that they found in researching all of the diets in the Blue Zones is that they eat until they're about 80% full. So again, like I previously mentioned, getting to that point where you're not so stuffed whenever you eat. This is actually an Okinawan practice. I'm not even going to try to recite the name because I will absolutely butcher it, but just stop eating when you're 80% full so you're not stuffed. This helps prevent overeating and it also lets your body catch up with your brain. And then they have very small dinners on average. Like, they have a bigger lunch. Their biggest meal of the day is at lunch. And then they'll have lighter dinners and they don't eat before bed. And then lastly, because diet is not just about what you eat, but also how, enjoy your food with people. Community is such an impossible to ignore part of the Blue Zone research. And across every Blue Zone, meals were seen as a sacred time for connection. Not only is this good for you because connection and community is the most important factor of your health above even exercise, food, sleep, like I've talked about this before, but also because when you're enjoying a meal with people you love, you tend to be more mindful, you eat slower, so you end up eating less, and your body is in rest and digest, so you can actually process what you're eating instead of being in fight or flight mode where your body shuts down digestive processes. So if you're only focusing on what you're eating and not how, you're missing a major piece of the puzzle. I actually kind of think the more I learn and the more I experience both with myself and with clients I work with, the how you eat is even more important than the what. So those are my thoughts on diets and dieting. I hope this gave you a helpful framework. I promise you, this is what works. It's hard to believe because it's so opposite what our culture has instilled in us, but that's a product of marketing, not health. So listen to your body, get to know your body's cues, And you don't need to stress so much about diet. Imagine a world where you actually are not worrying about food and you're actually just enjoying it and your body still responds. That's what I want for you. Have an amazing weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday, actually, for another amazing health-focused episode all my wellness girls will love. See you then. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I sure did. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference for our show so we can keep growing and bringing the content that you love. If you want more info, you can find us at The Everygirl Podcast on Instagram or theeverygirlpodcast.com. Talk to you next week.